These are the best metal albums of June 2025. I will be doing it the way I did last month, which will be by release date. So it's not a ranked list or anything. These are just the albums that I listened to that I felt were worth mentioning. I have 18 albums to talk about. I will be going through them quickly, so let's jump into it. I don't include a lot of black metal, but I gave this band a listen, and I thought it was pretty good. The album I'm talking about is Braiding the Stories by Gaahls, WYRD. It's a Norwegian black metal band, but they have elements of heavy metal in their sound, so I think that's probably why I liked it. They are on the Season of Mist label. They formed in 2015. It's their second full-length album. I looked into the band. Their vocalist is Gaahls. He's been on a number of popular bands, such as Gorgoroth and Wardruna, so I guess it's a side project for him. It's an interesting album because you have the opening track called The Dream, which is very atmospheric. Then the title track, which sounded a little like gothic or post-punk music. Then there was a track, Time and Timeless Timeline, which sounded more like thrash metal with black metal. So overall, it's not just typical black metal. They incorporated a lot of different sounds. Katatonia with Nightmares as extensions of the waking state. I almost didn't include this. It was one of those albums that sits towards the bottom of their discography, but there were good tracks here nonetheless. It's their 13th studio album. It has a sound similar to their last few albums. I thought it was okay. I think the band was much better in their earlier sound. The album features lots of songs, have a mix of heavy and light sections, mostly clean singing. There were a few tracks that were pretty good, like Wind of No Change, which shows the band going into a darker sound. Lilac was very representative of their modern sound and had many different progressive elements and reminded me a little bit of the band Opeth. There was a track Efter Solen, which was a softer track sung in Swedish. Overall, not their best album, but worth a mention. Turnstile with Never Enough. I'll be honest with you all, I've never listened to this band before. I've only heard the name, as I know they were nominated for a few Grammys. It's their 4th studio album. I guess it's not really easy to put this band into a specific category. They're listed as hardcore punk and alternative rock. All the songs sound a little different. The opening track, Never Enough, was very dreamy and atmospheric. Next track, Soul, sounded more like a metal song with heavy guitars, and the vocals reminded me a lot of Jane's Addiction. There are a lot of good songs, like Dreaming. It sounded like a Nirvana song, but then they added some horns and had a dreamy atmosphere. Overall, it's very unique, but I like the album, so for that reason, I have it on this list. Next band I have is Volbeat with Gods of Angels Trust. It's the 9th album by the Danish metal band. They seem to be in a category of its own. They have a very unique sound that mixes heavy metal, thrash, and rockabilly. The band is fronted by Michael Poulsen. The album is filled with killer guitar riffs. You hear a metallic influence throughout the album, especially Metallica from the Black Album. For example, the track By a Monster's Hand has a very Metallica Black Album sounding guitar riff. But they also had some more radio-friendly tracks like Acid Rain, which had more of a focus on melody. Then there was a track with a very long title, which is The Barn Goat or something, but sounded like Johnny Cash playing metal music. Overall, actually one of my favorites of the month. Next is Gruesome with Silent Echoes. It's pretty much a death tribute band. They make music inspired by the sounds of the classic death metal band. The album in question is basically a tribute to Death's Human album. This band formed in 2014. It's their 3rd full length, and you have tracks like Condemned Identity featuring some fast drumming and more of their like progressive death metal sound. And the vocalist sounds a lot like Chuck Schuldiner. They continue with the death metal sound on tracks like A Darkened Window and Frailty. That was more riffs, more drumming, and the instrumental Voice Within the Void, which had more of that spacey atmospheric sound and slowly builds. Overall, if you like death, check this out. This is A to Z with A to Z Squared. This is an interesting band for me because it features 2 members of Fate's Warning, which is one of those metal bands I can never get into, even though I tried listening to their early albums. They just never clicked with me. But this band consists of Ray Adler on vocals and Mark Zonder on drums, who were both in Fate's Warning, and if you look at their last names, you see how they come up with A to Z. You have songs like Nothing Is Over, which has some catchy hooks, Very accessible, but has some pretty good guitar work. Another track called A Wordless Prison, which has some more catchy hooks and progressive elements. Basically, it's melodic hard rock with progressive elements, probably more melodic and catchy than Fate's Warning, but I think I like this one. Album for June 6th. This was actually a pretty big weekend, and I have more of an underground band called Silius. The album is Beneath the Flesh. It's thrash and groove from Austria. They formed in 2013. It's their third full-length album. They open the album with an instrumental called Gone and Forgotten and some acoustic guitars. Then they go into the next song, Captive Breeding. It sounds a lot like old school thrash metal with guitar riffs and deep guttural vocals. But then towards the end of the album, there's some pretty good songs like Eat the Priest, which has lots of galloping guitars and Pantera-style groove metal. And they end the album with a cover of Black Sabbath's Solitude. Overall, the band doesn't get a lot of attention. I thought it was a good album. Going into June 13th, and the first one I have is Fallujah with Xenotaph. They are a tech death metal band from California, formed in 2007. It's their sixth studio album, released through Nuclear Blasts. I'm not usually a big fan of tech death, but the band mixes progressive metal and tech death, so for that reason I liked it more than I thought I would. The album opens with soft atmospheric sound, opening track in Stars We Drown. So first thing you hear is like this progressive rock, but then they go into the next track called Kaleidoscopic Waves, and it sounds more like straightforward tech death, lots of complex guitar riffs, and some melodies which remind me of a little bit of Dream Theater, but there are also sections with clean vocals. So pretty cool band. It's not all like technical, it's a little more prog. So for me, I liked it a little more for that. Band called Byzantine, and the album is called Harbingers. They are a progressive thrash and groove metal band. They formed in the year 2000. It's their seventh album. The sound is like a mix of bands like Megadeth, Testament, Lamb of God, Meshuggah, some bit of Pantera. So it's all of that. The album opens with a short track called Consequential, going into A Place We Cannot Go, which has chugging guitars, harsh and clean vocals. Then we have Floating Chrysanthia, with a more progressive metal sound and whirlwind guitar riffs. Then the Clockmaker's Intention, with softer instrumental parts and some weird Gojira style riffs. And Riddance was more straightforward thrash and groove. First time I'd ever listened to this band, and I thought it was pretty cool. Next is Professor Emeritus with A Land Long Gone. They are an epic doom metal band who released their first album in 2017, and now 8 years later, they're releasing the follow-up album, and this is a band that sounds like Candlemass and other similar bands, but with a little bit of heavy metal as well. We got A Corpse's Dream with big riffs and doomy vocals, Zoismos with cool drum beats, some Iron Maiden sounding guitars, Middle Eastern melodies. Passage sounds like some traditional heavy metal. Pragmatic Occlusion, more atmospheric and chugging. Overall, good epic. Self-titled album by Malvada, an all-female metal band from Brazil. They formed during the pandemic. It's their second album. They're listed as heavy metal, but the album has a lot of variety. Opening track, Down the Walls, has kind of a new metal sound. Then Veneno is more like pop with elements of metal. It's sung in Portuguese. And another track called Fear sounded more like symphonic metal. And the rest of the songs are a mix of ballads and new metal sounding tracks. So the album is probably more commercial sounding than you would expect it to be, but I thought it was still pretty good. Moving into June 20, I have Cryptopsy with An Insatiable Violence. They are a Canadian tech death metal band and probably the band that invented the genre. It's their ninth album. It's what you would expect from them. Lots of technical riffing, intense drums, deep guttural vocals. Not really a lot of experimentation here. Just an album filled with tech death riffs. I did a full review. I don't need to go into too much detail. It's a Cryptopsy album. That's all I have to say. It's Alestorm with the Thunderfist Chronicles. It's their 8th studio album by the Scottish pirate metal band. One of those bands that you don't take seriously, just some comedy metal, but when you listen to it, it's more than meets the eye. It's on the surface they sound like folk metal, but when you listen to the songs, you hear lots of different influences from other metal genres like death metal or black metal, and they even seem to be a gimmick, but they're actually really good. They're good musicians, and for that reason I thought it was a good album. Malevolence with Where Only the Truth Is Spoken. Another one of those bands. Doesn't really fit within a specific genre, but sounds basically a mix of hardcore and groove metal. I thought it was like a mix of Hatebreed and Pantera and other influences thrown in from other genres. Opening track Blood to the Leech was filled with complex guitar riffs and sounded slightly reminiscent of Lamb of God. Then the other track Trenches had more isolated vocals with beatdown hardcore riffs and a slower pace. But speaking of Lamb of God, there's also a track with Randy Blythe, and it's called In Spite. And the track is just filled with energy and beatdown guitar riffs. And I've never heard this band before, but I liked everything, so it was good. Finally, I have an epic heavy metal band from Greece, which is my favorite country for metal. It's pretty much like, I like every Greek band. But they're called Reflection. The name of the album is The Battles I've Won. They've been active since 1992. It's their 5th full-length album. The album was released on Pitch Black Records. Opening track called Only the Sword Survive. Gives me lots of like heavy metal, but plus some like Blind Guardian, like fast-paced energy, big vocals, melodic guitars, and then there are a few more melodic tracks like Lord of the Wind, which has a slower pace, but more of that epic nature. March of the Argonauts with some melodic guitar riffs and a sing-alongable chorus. So it's that type of heavy metal. It's catchy, a little bit of power metal, kind of like Blind Guardian vibes, a little bit of Manowar, but it's Greek metal, so definitely check it out. Finally, we're at the last weekend of June, and I have a few names. I think I only have 3, then we'll finish this up. But my first one is Sodom with the Arsonists, and I don't need to introduce them. They're one of the biggest names in German thrash. The album is what you would expect, lots of thrash metal guitar riffs, songs about war. I did a full review, so I'll just speak briefly. You got great tracks. You got Witch Hunter, it's a tribute to one of the past members who passed away. They had a very like old school 80s heavy metal sound. Another track called Scavenger, which was a little slower, so it was a nice change of pace because a lot of the songs happen to be very like fast paced. And another track I like called Tapiophobia, just old school thrash. Overall, really good release. Next I have an album that a lot of people talked about. I didn't have time to do a review, but the new album by Shadow of Intent called Imperium Delirium. They're a deathcore band, and what I like about them is that they're a genre that's usually kind of like repeatable, kind of boring, I guess. Repetitive, that's the word I'm looking for, but they make it sound really good because they add in all these different things. They add in like symphonic elements, and they add in like maybe like some thrash riffs, or they change it up a lot. So they don't make just music that just sounds repetitive or formulaic. It really sounds unique. So that's why I like this band. So we got different things going on. Some songs have like pianos in the background, but on the surface, it's a deathcore album, but you have all these different elements and layers of sound. So that's why it's a really good album. I have Heaven Shall Burn with Heimat. They are a German extreme metal band. And the second album on my list that has an elk on the cover for some reason. They are metalcore and melodic death metal. They've been around for a while, since their 10th album. We have tracks like War is the Father, featuring female choir vocals and machine gun riffs. There's the track Empowerment, which I like because it had more of that typical Gothenburg style melodic metal or melodic death metal sound that I like. Then it was Number Days, featuring Jesse Leach of Killswitch Engage, which had more of a metalcore sound with shouted vocals, but mixed with metal death metal, and it was actually it's a pretty long album, so a lot to go through, but worth it. I liked it, so check it out. That's all. Let me know your favorites in the comments. If there are any albums I missed, let me know. There's probably a lot that I missed, but in the meantime, check out last month's video. It will be on screen here for the best of May. Subscribe and all the good stuff. I will see you in the next one.